What's going on, guys? Dots Gaming here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be ranking all of the legends in Apex Legends from best to worst for Season 3, primarily looking at it from the ranked mode. Now, this is just my opinion on which legends are the best and which legends are the worst for ranked based off of my play and my ranked journey. And like I said, we're going to start at the S tier and work at S, A, B, C, D. But I will start off by saying there are no legends in D tier. Even though the tier does exist, I don't truly think that there are any legends this season that are completely 100% useless. Everybody can bring something to the team, but there are obviously some characters that bring way more than others. So kicking it right off, we have our first S tier legend, and that is going to be Pathfinder. Should be no surprise that Pathfinder is listed as an S tier legend if you played any amount of ranked. His mobility for himself is absolutely insane. The grapple is really, really good for engaging or disengaging or just getting to spots that nobody else can get to. And on a map like World's Edge, having this mobility is really, really key to being able to move around. And of course, we have to talk about his ultimate, the Zipline, which is so good for getting your team as well into spots that other teams would not be able to reach. It's also really good for repositioning offensively or defensively. So again, it's all about that movement, and that's what Pathfinder brings. And similarly, it should be no surprise that we also have our second S tier legend, and that is going to be Wraith. Wraith's ultimate, again, brings the same type of stuff that Pathfinder's does, except for in some regards it's better because you don't take any damage while you're going between point A and point B. So when Wraith runs and places that portal entrance and then places the exit, when you pass between those 2 points, if you do not know, you don't take any damage and you just teleport straight through them really, really quickly. This is really, really good. Again, repositioning offensively, repositioning defensively. It's also really good to do some fancy stuff if you're playing on the edge of the circle. You can use the portal to go back, get a death box, and then port back through while taking minimal damage. I've also had a win before where you just run around in a really long circle with Wraith, and you can just bounce between the portal constantly to basically prevent yourself from taking any damage from the ring while the other team dies to the ring if they don't have a Wraith on their team doing the exact same thing. So again, it's all about that team mobility, and Wraith does bring that. And of course, she also has her Q, which lets her phase into the void, take no damage, but not be able to see anyone. This is a really good ability also for repositioning. You know, once you turn into that mist, you can be kind of hard to track and hard to see where you're going, especially if you LOS around a corner. And it's really good to just be able to prevent you from taking any damage. And like I said, reposition and move yourself around. Or even if you get stuck by an arc star, you can use that Q to prevent that. So she's a very, very good legend. And there's no reason you see a lot of people on Twitch playing. And there's a good reason you see a lot of people on Twitch playing her. She's very, very powerful. Our final S tier legend is going to be Lifeline. Lifeline is extremely good for a team comp. She has the res shield, which is not, you can't, penetrate through it at all when you're resing someone, which is a really powerful tool to have. She also reses fast. And if you stick a gold backpack on her with that fast res, you're going to be getting teammates up already faster because of her passives, but they're going to have way more health and shield up because of the backpack. You also have her other passive, which automatically gives her fast healing, so she really doesn't have a need for a gold body shield, which is pretty cool. So having fast healing at all times is a really, really great thing, especially, if you find yourself, maybe you make a mistake and you get, you peek out somewhere you shouldn't peek to get hit with some shots, you can heal yourself back up really, really quickly. Because a lot of times when teams will land some shots on you, if they crack you, they'll take that as an opportunity to push your team. But if you are Lifeline, you'll be able to heal that back up extremely quickly and most likely be back full HP before that team gets to you. You also have the Sugar, what we also call the Roomba, the little robot that's going to heal you and your team up. It's really, really powerful to top you guys off so you can save your syringes and your meds for fights that are super important. And her ultimate care package really helps keep your team defensively topped off with armor. You have really good scopes on it. You also have guaranteed either like syringes or shield cells. She's really good for keeping your team kitted defensively and is one of the best support legends in the game. Now, moving on to our A tier legends, our first one is going to be Wattson. So Wattson, I still think, is an A tier for Season 3. I know it's not as close quarters as it was in King's Canyon, and it is more open, like an open map. So in some situations, Wattson does kind of lose her use, but overall, she's still incredibly powerful. You can basically turn a rock into a defensive area too. If you're out in the open, you place your pylon right behind the rock and then place fences around it. Sure, it's not as good as obviously a building, but she still has tons of use and tons of viability inside of the new map in Season 3. And she's just very, very powerful for locking down an area. I don't have her at an S because of the fact that, again, the map does have some situations where she does lose her potency and she's not as good, but she's still a great addition to the team, and that's why we have her at an A tier. That pylon is still amazing, and they buffed it recently. I just hope that they maybe make it so that it doesn't affect grenades going out. Our next A tier legend is going to be Gibraltar. Gibraltar has seen so much more play this season, and he is so good. He's got the fortified passive to make him take 15% less damage, which is super helpful because he is a big boy. But you also have that gun shield, which gives you a ton of extra defense while fighting your opponents, and especially from far ranges. It can be really hard to hit anything else but that gun shield. It is really, really powerful. You also have his Q, which places the dome. The dome is really good to basically make yourself a building inside of these open areas that we are constantly seeing the circles and on World's Edge. So it's really powerful for that. And now inside that circle, inside that dome, you also get the fast healing, which is really, really nice. So you can basically dip out of the dome, shoot people, and if you take damage, you go back in, you can heal yourself up quickly and get right back in the fight. So he's very, very good for that type of basically creating cover. And then also his ultimate is really great for third partying or for initiating a fight. You could just drop the ult on your opponents and it'll basically cause them to either they'll basically scatter because they don't want to take all that unnecessary damage from the Gibraltar. So you can, force teams to go certain ways. If you place the ult in certain spots, they're not going to want to run through it, so you can force them to run a different way and put them in a position that's going to be more advantageous to your team, or use it as a tool to third party. If you're coming up on two teams that are fighting, just chuck your ultimate in there. It's got a really far distance that you can throw it, and it'll be a really easy tool to engage a third party. He's just very, very good, and that's why he is a ranked A tier legend. Now, my last A tier legend is actually going to be Caustic. So I have been playing Caustic a lot more recently. I just picked him up as like a character that I've been playing more and more. And honestly, I do think he is deserving of an A tier spot, because the way I almost kind of see him is he's like a more offensively oriented Watson. He still has that defensive capability where he can lock down a building with his various traps, but his ultimate is really, really good for engaging a fight. Even if you like, similarly to Gibraltar, if you see two teams fighting, it's a really good tool to third party. It's also really good if you're trying to charge into a building fighting a team, assuming it's not a Watson, you just chuck your ultimate in there, and it's going to basically cause them to scatter because they're not going to want to just sit in that gas. He's really, in my opinion, he's been very good in Season 3, again, for kind of being able to have that lockdown area capability that Watson brings, and he's got very good zoning with his gas, but he also does have that offensive push capability with his ultimate. Now, he can be kind of a nuisance to the team sometimes because his teammates are slightly affected by his gas as well, but that is kind of one of the drawbacks that he brings and is what keeps him from being any higher than A tier, in my opinion. But he's still very, very good, and I would absolutely recommend using him this season. Now, moving on to our B tier. Our first B tier legend is going to be Bangalore. So I have Bangalore to B tier. I actually really like her passive, the fast sprinting whenever she takes she's getting shot at. I think is really, really cool. Her smoke is also great as well to give you and your team some extra cover. It can be kind of hard to see through it at times, but if you know where you're going and then she drops the smoke, you can basically continue heading in that direction. No, you're not going to be running into a wall or anything. But I don't find her ultimate to be the best. That's kind of what keeps her at a B tier for me. I feel like it's like Gibraltar's ult, but weaker. So I'm not the biggest fan of it, but she is still a good legend. She is still a decent add to a team. But I just think that on the current map and what situations you get into, I don't think that she can rank any higher than any of the other legends I've listed at the moment, at least in my opinion. But she's still a decent pick. She's still solid, and that's why we have her at a B tier. Our next B tier legend is going to be Crypto. So Crypto, I don't think will ever be higher than B tier for a little while until they give him some buffs. I'm actually not the biggest fan of the way he's been playing recently, but I do have him at a B. because he does have the capability to give your team a lot of information with the drone. And if you have a really strong, coordinated team that can take advantage of that information, that can be extremely useful. And if you can get the drone in a nice spot, you can use your ultimate to crack everyone's, do 50 shield damage to everyone's armor. You're going to slow them down. But unfortunately, that drone EMP does also affect your teammates. The drone is really susceptible to being shot down. Also, when you're inside the drone, you are not, able to participate in gunfights because you're playing inside the drone. And he has no mobility, so when he hops out of the drone, if your teammate's pushed up ahead, you have to basically play catch up. And I felt like a lot of times when I was playing Crypto, I was spending a lot of times running after my team. So you have to learn how to, I think, really balance the drone use and actually playing your characters. So it can be kind of difficult. He's fun, but I think his drone needs a couple of key buffs to be a little bit more useful. So for now, we have him at that B tier. Our next legend is going to be Octane, who I also have at a B tier. So Octane's jump pad is decent. It's not as good as Pathfinder's zip line. It does put you into some susceptible situations where you can very easily just be shot down because you're just cruising through the air. But again, he does bring team mobility, because I've seen some people with their tier list, they put Octane at a C. And I don't really think that gives Octane enough justice, because he does bring some team aspects that the last two legends I'm going to put at a C tier do not bring. So he does have some team mobility to help people reposition and move to different spots with that jump pad. Also has an insanely low cooldown, which is really, really good. I think one of the things that keeps him B and not any higher is, number one, his jump pad really kind of puts people in a situation where they can very easily be shot down, especially on this really nice open map. You'll be sailing through the air and someone could just charge rifle you into the face. So that is a little unfortunate, but I think his Q takes a little bit too much health at the moment. I think that they could tone that back, but for right now, he's a solid pick, not the best, not the worst, but he's sitting at a solid B rating in my opinion. Now our first C tier legend is going to be Mirage. So I wish I could have ranked Mirage higher than this, but unfortunately I can't, all in good faith. He's really, really fun to play, and when you get a solid bamboozle, you're on cloud 9. But I unfortunately don't think he could rank any higher than C tier. A lot of players can clearly see which one's the Mirage and which one's the clone. He doesn't really have any mobility outside of his ultimate, which is kind of unfortunate. And his ult is good for flanking enemies, and it's good for getting tricky escapes. But when you compare him to the other legends that I've listed above him, he doesn't really bring a whole lot to a team that they bring. Every other legend I've listed above does bring a team buffing aspect in some sense, and he really doesn't at the moment. So I think what they could do to buff him up is basically just increase his bamboozle capability. Maybe make it so that he can deploy 2 clones instead of 1. Maybe make it so that his ult makes him purely invisible instead of being able to kick up dust tracks. I just think he needs some buffs in some key areas to basically make the more selfish kit that he has more viable, so that he does bring something to a team simply by being there, if that kind of makes sense. At least that's my impressions from my gameplay of him so far. Now our final C tier legend is going to, of course, be Bloodhound. So unfortunately, I don't think Bloodhound's that good. I want him to be better because I have a really cool skin for him, and he's actually decently fun to play. But I don't think he's any better than C tier at the moment. His ultimate, kind of restricts your field of view a little bit. It doesn't really offer a whole lot for how long the cooldown is. You can more easily track down enemies, see their tracks, see where they're going, see their footsteps, but it restricts your field of view a lot, kind of messes with your sound a little bit. And I don't think for the cooldown, it offers enough to really warrant bringing. And his Q doesn't have the longest range, doesn't have the greatest cooldown. It kind of reveals where you are. And that's the issue I kind of have with Bloodhound sometimes, is that a lot of his tracking things, it reveals where he is. Like if I have a Bloodhound tracking me down in his ultimate, I can literally hear him wheezing as he chases me down. So I think, again, similarly to Mirage, he needs some kind of key buffs to both his tactical and to his ultimate to make him worth bringing to a team. He definitely has potential, because, again, he is a tactical legend. He's a tracker, so he should be able to bring a good amount to a team because of the fact that he can provide the team with positional information on the enemies. But I think his abilities just in overall need some buffs to make him better to be able to provide that information to his team, because at the moment it's too revealing where he is when trying to bring that info to the team. So unfortunately for right now, I am gonna have to leave him at a C tier. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. That is my Apex Legends tier list. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys agree with how I've ranked the characters? Would you move certain legends up or down a little bit more? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you guys like this tier list, I would appreciate if you left a like on the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave one below. And to keep up with the great Apex Legends content on the channel, please hit that sub button as well as the bell to keep notifications on. So thank you all so much for stopping by today. I appreciate it very much. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you all very soon.